my heart breaks is just that first sentence you said of my earliest memory was domestic violence.
Is that not? That can't be normal. That's my mum you're hurting.
Yeah.
To the point where he'd actually kidnapped my brother and sister. I watched it from my bedroom window and I screamed. So he kicked me out of the house and locked the door.
Wow.
They ended up beating the crap out of me.
Yeah.
But when he stuck on the video, it ended up being gay porn. It didn't go away, and I just had to, when I just had the strength in my legs, I just had to run. That's something that I actually never spoke about for about 20 years. And I started writing, but there was still that fear, and I could always see that in her eyes.
It's where if you want.
Fucking spell you like. I'm fucking crying. Fucking crying now. Honestly, like.
You get a breath of fresh air.
Oh.
Little did you know how it would turn out in the teenage years, but that's another story. My younger brother had passed away, and I say he never intended to kill himself. The police came to me and handed me my stuff, and he said, "Just to let you know, we have arrested her." I left with 11p to my name, and 2 pairs of jeans and a t-shirt, and I was sat at the edge of the bridge, just looking down, and I said, "Who's going to miss me? You've survived your worst day. You're still here. And if you can survive every day that's gone previous, you can survive the next day. And things will get better." It's put me on this path that I am on, trying to help other people.
Hello and welcome to Becoming Lucy with me, Hannah.
And me, Lucy. So this episode today is slightly a bit of a harrowing one, but a few years ago, our guest Darryl was standing on a bridge. He wasn't crying, he wasn't shouting, he wasn't asking for help, he was quiet. And if one passing driver hadn't noticed him, this conversation wouldn't be happening.
Yep, no system saved him that night, a stranger did.
And today's episode is about trauma, but not in the way that you think.
It's about what happens when survival becomes your personality, when strength becomes silence, and when your nervous system has been screaming at you for years, but you didn't know how to listen.
And this is Darryl's story. So welcome to Becoming Lucy, Darryl.
Oh, thanks very much.
Thank you so much for reaching out. So, just for anyone listening, Lucy and I don't know Darryl. We have met for the first time this evening, albeit through some stressful tech issues.
Yeah.
But Darryl approached the podcast and sort of asked to share his story, which we're super grateful for. So Darryl, sort of talk to us about how you came across Becoming Lucy and what made you want to sort of reach out and talk to us.
So I know Richie Thrower slightly, so I listened to obviously him. He came onto your podcast, and I love the work that he does, and I do something similar. He does work with veterans and mental health. I do a lot of work within like the mental health sector as well. And I've always been a big advocate of I should be able to tell my story. Other people will be able to tell their story. It helps other people speak out. So that's why from last year and this year, I'm going on podcasts and just sharing my story and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve.
Amazing. And I think that totally aligns with kind of what we want to do and what we do on the podcast in terms of allowing people that space and to share their lived experiences with no judgment and kind of just that open floor to speak to incredible people like yourself. And we're very much looking forward to digging a bit deeper to your story. So thank you again for choosing us to come and speak.
No, that's absolutely fine. I said, looks like a good podcast, and Richie couldn't speak highly of you, so I'm more than happy.
No,
Amazing.
Fabulous. So before obviously we delve in, we'll be covering everything, obviously what you're doing, obviously further on into the podcast. I won't do any spoilers, but before the bridge and obviously before the collapse, before is it Fynix project?
Yeah, Fynix.
Fynix project. Obviously we always start at the beginning. So who was Darryl? Who were you as a little boy?
As a little boy, for the most part, from my earliest memory, it seems like I was in a war zone. So my mother was in a domestically abusive relationship, marriage. And that's my earliest memory. So that would have been me witnessing physical violence towards my mother, psychological violence, even points where I see my mum get thrown over a chair while she was pregnant with my little sister. I was also a victim of the violence as well as a young boy. There was physical violence, getting hit with a belt, wooden spoon, shoes, but there was a psychological violence as well. So I have a huge, I know I'm 38 years old, but I have a huge aversion to vegetables. I do not like vegetables. It's the weirdest thing to have an aversion for, but it's psychological. So we could have been eating Sunday dinner. If you didn't eat your vegetables, you were forced to sit there for 3, 4 hours. It wouldn't have made a difference. Even if you were sick, that was not a reprieve. You would have to go and stand facing the wall and for the next couple of hours, sometimes holding stuff or holding your arms up. You weren't allowed to drop your arms, so you got the belt in the back of the leg. So that's my earliest memory. And I mean, the older I've got, I realized, how strong my mother was. Going through all that, we eventually left when I was about 9, 10. We eventually left, went into the woman's refuge. And there was a huge difference there from my mother. She didn't feel like we were walking on eggshells. But I always remember walking to school and she would always look over her shoulder constantly. But then eventually we got a house, we moved close to family. My younger brother and sister, that's their biological father, my stepfather.
Right.
So he ended up getting access and he was still causing problems to the point where he'd actually kidnapped my brother and sister when I was about 10 or 11, and tried to take them back over to Liverpool. So I watched my mum sort of deteriorate in regards to her mental health, and at that point I didn't understand it. I was the eldest, so I had to try and be the strong one as much as I could, but inside I was obviously breaking as well. And then when I was about 11, my mother, she ended up getting into a relationship with someone that we thought was a pillar of the community. His family owned the local supermarket and stuff like that. He lived in the flat above it. But then there was one day I went in looking for my mother, and he said, "No, she's not here, but come in and have a look at this video." And 11, I don't know what's going on. So I went, sat down on the bed, and he handed me a beer. I just sort of gripped it, not knowing what's going on. But 11, you think, "Oh, I've got a beer, that's great." But when he stuck on the video, it ended up being gay porn. He started touching himself and saying he's getting hard, and then he started running his hands up my leg. And to be fair, that could have lasted 2 minutes, that could have lasted 20 minutes. To me, it felt like a lifetime.
100%.
I was just staring into the can, literally just staring into it until I actually plucked up the courage to run out of the house. And that's something that I actually never spoke about for about 20 years.
Wow.
Until I eventually broke down and told my mum. I mean, the emotions that you sort of feel and your brain just can't sort of comprehend things at that age. And you start pointing the finger and blaming everyone else. And like, is it my fault? Is it their fault? And whose fault is it, apart from the actual person that done it? So yeah, fast forward, I'd sort of dealt with a lot of mental health issues sort of growing up. I had anger issues as a teenager and stuff like that. And I think that's a culmination of everything that I'd sort of been through at that point. And then sort of going into my 20s, I sort of tried to steady myself a little bit. I'd probably using alcohol as a bit of a crutch, but I was still like functioning, going to work and stuff like that. So I'd sort of like trying to get a fresh start, move over to England. And for the first time, I am back over there now, but trying to get a fresh start. And I got a phone call one day. I think it was I was like 23, 24 at the time, that my younger brother had passed away. He'd taken an accidental overdose.
Jesus.
He was just turned 19.
Wow.
So I'd sort of, again, the old sort of feelings sort of came crawling back and crept back and stuff like that. And then I'd sort of pointed the finger at myself and thinking, could I have done more, or should I have moved over to England? Should I have got that fresh start for myself? And but yeah, after that, I'd moved sort of back and tried to be there for my mother a lot, because it was a lot for her to take on, and I've seen her deteriorate and sort of go into herself a lot more, and her mental health was rock bottom, as was mine, but I was
Yeah.
the eldest. I had to obviously try and be the strong one.
Mm. So, wow, Darryl,
Oh
so
God,
much
that's a lot.
to. It's
I shouldn't laugh. I don't know why, but
it,
like,
yeah,
it's a lot.
it's a lot, and how you've articulated that in this sort of space that you have was just incredible. And obviously, as you were speaking, there's so many questions are going around in my head, and I think that obviously it will be the same for Luce. And let's like circle right back then to some of those sort of key points that you were talking about. And I think the first one for me, and obviously my heart breaks, is just that first sentence you said of my earliest memory was domestic violence. Like, it just kills me inside that obviously as a little boy we wanted to explore who you were, and were you playful, were you sensitive, and that was your answer. And it's just harrowing, like we said at the start of the episode. When you were in your house, and obviously you've got the utmost respect for your mum, like you've said, you've realised how strong she was to kind of deal with that. And there would have been so many moments, I'm sure you've spoken to her, where she wanted to up and leave, and that pull of staying is so strong that she obviously couldn't. Were there any moments in your childhood that were fun, that you were with your siblings, that you did feel like you had that family unity, or was it all just terrifying?
No, I wouldn't say it was all terrifying. There was times where my stepfather he was a lorry driver, so he could be away for a couple of days at a time, and see, every time with them couple of days, that was a good respite, and you can
Mm,
see my mother not having to walk on eggshells as much,
mm,
because she knows, well, all right, well, I've got a couple of days, I've got maybe Tuesday till Friday, and he's just not here, and she can sort of relax a little bit. So there was that element, but the second he came back, it was back to eggshells.
mm,
But you know, my earliest memories is, obviously, we lived in a flat in a small seaside town called Whitehead. But my granny Craig and my granddad Craig, they lived across the road, so that was always like a safe haven for my mother and
mm,
me, because he would never go there. He didn't like
Right.
us
mhm,
going there, and because he was very, very controlling. But any time we did go there, it was like, we can let our guard down, and stuff like
mhm,
that. So, and yeah, and when my siblings come along, we were that age where we could actually spend a lot of time outside. So it was
mm,
kind of like blocking that out. So myself and my brother Ian, we would be outside playing out the front and stuff like that.
mm,
And then, but there was times where, even playing outside, and you sort of, I remember, I remember one time, where I sort of got a little bit too big for my boots. Um, and I think it was 7 years old. And I seen these two, they must have been like 15, 16 years old. And one of them was Chinese. And I didn't know any better. And I'm not a racist.
mm,
But at that age, I called him Chinky and ran.
mm.
And I ran into the house. And I said to my stepdad, I said, there's two guys chasing me. So he kicked me out of the house and locked the door.
Wow.
And they ended up beating the crap out of me,
Oh my God.
essentially. But
So
yeah,
he sent you into that pack of wolves essentially then.
yeah.
Like, and do you, obviously from his perspective then, what was he like then? He sounds like a horrible man. Like, was there any kind of flip behavior where he would treat you lovingly and then that would confuse you even more? Was there any of that? Was it just straight like terror?
Yeah, it was straight. It was terrible. There was no happy medium with him. There was no nice side where he'd be good for a couple of days. This week, just who he was 24/7.
Mm.
And say, you ask my sister, or if you could ask my brother, they'd tell you the exact same thing.
Yeah.
He was like that 24/7, but there's no good side to him.
Yeah.
And that's the God's honest truth.
And then did you understand as a child, like, what was happening? Like, what was right and wrong? Like, did you see other families? Do you know what I mean? Like, how did that sit with you?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was hard to sort of like, at that age, you sort of wonder, well, is this normal? But then
Mm.
at the same time, you're seeing my mum crying, you're seeing my mum getting punched, you're seeing my mum getting thrown over a couch. You're seeing all this, and is that no? That can't be normal. That's my mum.
Mm.
You're hurting.
Yeah.
So it was at that time. It was very, very confusing. But as I got slightly older, like 9, 10, 11 years old, I always swore I would never put my hands on a woman at
Mm.
all. I said, there's no way that I'm ever going to turn out like him. Um,
Yeah.
and I absolutely despise any sort of domestic abuse or domestic violence, to men or women,
Mm-hmm.
because I've been through it as well. I think we'll probably get onto that later
Yeah.
on, but yeah, I mean, it was, as you were younger, it was very, very confusing because you sort of you ask yourself, well, these two people are married, my mother and my
Mm-hmm.
stepfather, they're married. Is this what actually happens when people are married? But then at the same time, on the back of your head was, well, mum's crying, she's getting hurt. It can't be normal. But at
Mm-hmm.
that time, it's hard to sort of like comprehend it.
And it's your house, and I think that's what must be so heartbreaking for children that grow up in these situations, because half of you is like, I want to be here. Like, obviously, like,
Hmm.
you deeply love your mum and your siblings, and this is what you're used to, and your granny lives across the road, and you go to school and you've got friends, so half of you is probably thinking, well, yeah, this is where I want to be, and the other half probably thinking, all I want to do is run away. So I can totally understand why you would have that confusion and that pull constantly. And with your mum then, did she ever, when your stepdad was kind of out working, did she ever like sit you down and try and explain like why she's still putting up with it? Like, did she say, I promise, we're gonna get out of here one day? Like, what were those conversations like?
Yeah, I mean, I knew that she wanted to leave. I knew that she wanted to leave, even if she didn't say it directly to me. But I think it was that, not necessarily. I think there was an element of fear, but it was having to pick up without him knowing and to go. And that was the hard bit. What if he finds me? What if this happens? What if this happens? So there was always that element because, you know, 3 children, one just newly
Mm-hmm.
born. I say she eventually. I think it got to the point where if she doesn't go, she may not be here anymore.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And whether that be through her own choice or whether that be through something that he does,
Yeah.
I think she just more that more she wanted to take us out of that situation than to take her out of that situation.
Yeah.
I think as we were getting older, he was getting more and more aggressive. Because I think as we got older, he felt like he could push us further.
Yeah. Yeah. You're bigger, and he wanted more of a fight from you, which is just horrific. And what did that moment look like then when your mum made that decision? Did she come in during the night? Like, did she say, pack your bags, we're going? Did she do it over a course of time and then you kind of knew about it in the background? Like, talk to us about how it actually happened.
Yeah, so it was literally, it came out of nowhere for me. So that day, as soon as he went to work, mum said, right, we're leaving. She roped in my other granny, my granny Simpson. She roped her in to come and pick up and take us up to the woman's refuge, pack up all the stuff. And it was literally, I've never seen like everything just get thrown into boxes and bags and thrown into the car as quick as you like. And so it came out of the blue for me. I had no idea that it was happening,
Yeah.
and it just came out of the blue. And the second we got into that woman's refuge, now bear in mind it was a communal kitchen, but the room was just a big bed set. But do you know what? It was a happy time because we
Hmm.
could just relax. We were all sort of squoze into it, but we could just relax and we could just be ourselves and we could just laugh without having to look over our shoulder. So people say it's horrible, you must have been living there. No, that was class. Because it was. Sorry, I'm trying not to swear there.
No,
No,
it's
swear.
fine. Swear if you want.
Fucking spell you like. I'm fucking crying. Fucking crying, Darryl. Honestly, like.
Well, like I was saying, yeah, it was fucking class. It was great because I'd seen the smile come back onto my mum's face, and that was the first time I'd seen a proper smile in a very, very long time. And that just filled me with so much joy.
Oh. No, I can imagine. I feel like I've got so many questions now. I'm
Yeah.
like, have you got any memories from that? I just
Yeah.
got this memory of like, I don't know, all being in the same bed or something and just being
Yeah.
relaxed and laughing. And you take those memories away, isn't it? It's not like
Yeah.
the big things you even remember as a kid. It's not the cinema trips or the
It's not.
McDonald's. It's the feeding the ducks or watching a film, making a den. Do you know what I mean? And all
Yeah.
those kind of things. And
It's
I'm assuming that's
feeling
what
it's
you were
feeling
doing.
safe, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly what you've just said. Like it's feeling safe. It's like being out of a home that's probably you've got the telly, got some toys, you've got food, but you've got this like black cloud constantly over you. And moving to a women's refuge where you're obviously living with strangers and everyone's coming from a traumatic situation, but that is actually some of your happiest memories. It just literally, like Lucy's just said, sums it up that all you need in life, whether you're a child or an adult, you need safety, you need love, you need support. You don't need materialistic things at all. And I think why I was getting so emotional was just like imagining like 3 kids and their mum escaping danger. You're
Oh,
escaping danger. And what breaks my heart is that that wasn't done years before, and this is not blaming your mum at all because she is a warrior for surviving that and protecting you guys as much as she could. And you got out eventually, and that is the main thing. And you're sat here talking to us about your experience. And I know we're going to get onto it later about how you're giving back and helping people that have been in those situations. And I just feel incredibly lucky that I didn't have to deal with that as a child, and that my daughter isn't dealing with that right now. So your
yeah.
strength, your mum's strength, your siblings' strength, just incredible. And your stepdad's a wanker.
I couldn't have said that better myself. I couldn't have said that better myself.
Oh, God.
So, how long were you protected for? Because obviously, I presume the women's housing area, like they protected you, but you also said, quite frankly, your brother and your sister were then kidnapped later on. How did that come about? How did he
Yeah.
get back?
So I think we were in the women's refuge for, I don't even know how long. I think it was for about 6 months. Me and Ian went to primary school in Korea. My sister, she was still a baby at that time. Um, so I went there, and do you know what? Going there, I wasn't allowed to join the choir in any other places, due to my stepdad. I joined the bloody choir. I couldn't sing, but I joined it
Yeah.
just because I could. At that primary school. And do you know what? That primary school was great. When we left, I think it was 6 months I was there for. When we left, the teacher said, you were just a breath of fresh air.
Oh,
Little did he know how it would turn out in the teenage years, but that's another story. But then we moved to Brisbane. So my granny Simpson, she lived in Brisbane, and we got a house literally just around the corner from her. He must have, again, I was still very young, so I don't know how it ensued. But as far as I know, it went through courts, and he got access to the kids again.
right.
To Ian and Courtney, he got access. And I remember it vividly the day that it happened. So he had other daughters from a previous marriage because he was about 20 years older than my mother. So he's got older daughters who were at that stage in their 20s. So one of them, Kelly, she came to the house and sat with my mum and me while he took Ian and Courtney out. When it came to him dropping them back off, Kelly walked out to the car. She got into the car and they drove off.
Oh my God, she's
I
part of it.
watched it. Yeah, she was part of it. I watched it from my bedroom window and I screamed, and all I can barely remember it because it happened such a blur, but my mum can, and she told me. She said, "You ran down them stairs and you ran up that road and you tried to chase that car." And I was only
Mm.
10 years old at that time.
Wow.
And it was, I think he handed Courtney back, my younger sister, because all the kids he had previously were girls. And I think he's got about 13 kids in total.
13 kids as well.
I
Oh
know.
my God.
I know. But
Oh.
I say he handed Courtney back because again, it's another girl, but Ian was the boy, and so he kept Ian, and that was for months.
Wow.
Months.
before we could actually get him back. It was
N-
quite some time.
And when Ian came back and he talked to you about that experience, was he having to endure the same thing as what he did when? So he went back to having domestic violence upon
Yeah,
him.
so it was like the same thing, you know, you do something wrong, you get the wooden spoon, you get the belt, you'll have to face the wall and stare at it for 2 hours, not allowed to move, or keep your arms up while you're doing it. You drop your arms, you get whipped, making sure you eat all of your food, even food that you do not like. And that's to this day, that's why I don't like vegetables. There's very few vegetables I can eat due to that. And I'm trying
I
to like,
don't like vegetables after this story, Darryl. I prefer vegetables.
yeah, but I'm trying to enforce vegetables onto my daughter, but I can't. You know, well, why don't you eat them? That's a long story.
Oh,
And with this, then your mum obviously contacted the police, I take it, and
Mhm.
social services and all that kind of stuff. Talk us through that journey, then, obviously, from what you know from your mum, like why it took months, like how would this was just allowed to happen?
It was a process, but again, I don't know because I was 10 years old at the time,
mm,
and we didn't really talk about it extensively. You know, when I got a little bit older, but we did talk about it. But she had to go through the courts to get him back. They had to go through court again and stuff like that. But because he had access to him, he wasn't actually kidnapping him.
right, yeah, because
But because he had access, you know, he wasn't banned from seeing Ian or anything like that. He had access. He wasn't leaving the UK. He was still in the UK. So it was just, there was so much red tape around it at that
Mm,
time. And I'm hoping that it's changed now because that's just crazy how much red tape there was at the time and how difficult it was just to, my mum said, I just want my son back. And
yeah.
that was
yeah.
so difficult.
And how old? I don't know. I've got an issue of knowing how old everybody is. I've just realised by listening through all the old podcasts I've got.
Yeah.
But your stepsister, how old was she then to be involved in this? Is this something that your stepdad would
She
have?
would have been in her 20s.
So she's old enough to know better.
Yeah.
She wasn't.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that audacity of her just turning up and pretending to be this lovely, like you said, stepsister supporting you and your mum and being like, he's only taken them to go out to the park or whatever they said, to then like callously go and get in the car. Like it sounds like a movie. Like it just sounds so surreal.
Mm.
And then, like you said, this red tape. And what's heartbreaking again is that your brother was in a nightmare. Like he desperately wanted to get back to you and your mum. And again, what's just devastating is that he had, you'd come out of that situation, you were in like your happy place, like you said, in the refuge. You then moved closer to family. You'd kind of started to rebuild your life, and then suddenly it gets taken away from him again, and he's sent right back to that place that you escaped from. So mentally, like we've touched upon it with you, and we will get there later as well. Like mentally, that affected him for him to then have that accidental overdose. And that is just so traumatic to think that maybe if that kidnap had never happened and he never had to go back to that place, how different it could have turned out. But maybe the second time round just affected him so much in his later life. It's just horrific, absolutely horrific.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing with my brother. I do think that he had a lot that he needed to deal with at that time, and I think because he couldn't deal with that, he did get himself into the wrong crowd and turn into to drinking, drugs, and stuff like that. And I say he never intended to kill himself, but he was just that into the drinking, the drugs, and
Mm.
unfortunately, just one night it just went a little bit too far for him. But again, if that hadn't have happened, he may not have went down that path. He may not have went
Hmm.
down that path, and he may still. That's questions that I still ask myself to this day.
Hmm. I don't blame you at all. And obviously, moving forward then with your story, you've got your little safe haven then with your mum and your sister and your brother back again when he eventually comes back and your mum gets access again. Before we do move on, did your dad then still your stepdad, sorry, continue with that access, or did the court say after what you've done, how did that work?
He still had access. He still got access, and I don't know how, but he did get
Yeah,
access
the
still.
fear in your mum must
Um,
have been horrendous.
yeah, but I think we were a lot more, or Mum was a lot more vigilant at that point. Making sure that he comes back. And I think there was, again, I'm not 100% sure because he's still quite young, but I think there was something in the court order as well, preventing him from doing that this time round,
Yeah.
which I don't know why it wasn't there in the first place due to
Yeah.
who he is. But at least I think there was something there at that time.
And the simple pleasures in life that we all take for granted around this time must have just been so enjoyable for you guys. Like, sitting together as a family and, like Lucy said earlier, like feeding the ducks and stuff, all the simple pleasures. When you were finally back together again, that was what kept you going, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there was time my mum, because obviously she'd been through a lot for years, and so she still struggled quite a lot mentally. But there was days where we would just sit down and play board games or something like that, or just have a laugh. And there were still times where you sort of like look out the window when you hear a car pull up, and there was still that fear, and I could always see that in her eyes. But for the best part, we weren't walking as eggshells as much, and we weren't sort of looking over our shoulder as much. And it just you could let your guard down a bit.
Yeah. Until you couldn't when your mum met the pillar of community that you spoke about earlier. So talk to us about how that happened and then more about what happened when he invited you back.
Do you know what? It's crazy to think because my mum at that point looked so, so happy.
Mm.
Because he was taking her out for tea and, he was kind to her, he was nice to her and stuff like that. And it was nice to see my mum happy, um, for a change. It was nice to see someone who was, at the time in my eyes, the complete opposite to my stepfather. Um, so that was good. And I think he always made me feel welcome. He made the Ian Courtney feel welcome as well, and in his house and stuff like that. And you know, at that point, you sort of let your guard down. And I think I just turned 11 years old, so I think I just started secondary school. So I was like in first year or year seven, as you'd like to call it over here. And I think it was like my first week or something. And I went in looking for my mum, and you know, I didn't think anything of it. Just going in and said, is my mum there? No, he's not. But here, come and have a look at this video that I've got. Back in the time where VHSs were still a thing. And again, it just happened so, so quickly. From him like sitting me down on the bed and putting this video in, and he handed me this cold can of beer. When it plays, I'm sort of like, you're at that age where you're sort of curious, like, is this porn that he's putting on? But then you sort of watch it for 5 minutes and like, hold on, this is just like two guys. There's no girls. And then it's when he started sort of like saying, "Oh, I'm getting hard" and stuff like that, and everything, and then started feeling himself. And then when he sat down beside me and sort of running his hand up my thigh and stuff like that, to the point where it got up to the very top. And again, I don't know how long he was doing that for. But I was just sat there frozen, I was staring at the ring of the tin of beer. Just staring at that, and just if I just keep staring at that, maybe it'll all go away. But it didn't go away, and I just had to, when I just had the strength in my legs, I just had to run. And it's weird because it's like when you see it in a movie, like in the movies where they're like running for the door and the door's getting further and further and further away. That's exactly how it felt. It felt like the walls were closing in and the door was getting further away. But when I eventually got out, I think I walked around for hours because I was just trying to come to terms with that. And I didn't tell anyone, probably for a plethora of reasons. One, I was ashamed. Um, Two, I didn't actually know what happened. Three, was it my fault? Did I make that happen? You know, Four, maybe I didn't want my mum to lose her happiness. There was so many reasons, and it took me hours before I'd actually managed to stuff it down, and just try and carry on with life as normal.
Yeah. Because you say you didn't tell anyone for like 20 odd years. So was that the only incident? Did he come back to you and say, don't tell anyone? Like, was there anything else after that?
I never went anywhere near him. I always made an excuse afterwards.
Right.
So I never went anywhere near him at all. And as you sort of get older and stuff like that, you sort of wonder, well, did he do anything to my brother or sister?
Oh, God, yeah.
But when I did admit it to my mum and my sister 20 years later, thankfully that never happened. My sister confirmed that nothing ever happened with her. Unfortunately, we're not able to ask my brother. I wasn't able to ask Ian because obviously he'd passed away by that stage.
Gosh.
But I just made sure I avoided that him and never to be alone with him at any point.
And that's a lot for an 11-year-old, 12, 13, 14, however long your mum stayed with him. Was it a long relationship? Was it a couple of years?
It wasn't. I think it was only like after it happened, I think it was only like 6 months before they sort of split up again. And I sort of felt like I could breathe a bit, but I still had loads going in the back of my head. That's still like loads of questions. And I think going into the secondary school with everything that happened as a young child, not able to process that. And then obviously what had happened then, not able to process that. And at that age, it's hard to process your emotions. So being the typical teenager that I was, I acted out. And it's one thing that frustrates me. Nobody ever asked the reason why. At that time, I just got labeled as a bad little shit.
Yeah. And I think that is so true for so many people that act in certain ways, that there was always a deep-rooted problem. It's very rare that it will just come from nowhere and they've got a perfect family life and everything's great and they just want to be a dickhead. I'm sure there are cases like that, of course, but it is always because there's a deep-rooted problem. And I think what's good about it, as we're coming into obviously the last few years, mental health's obviously talked about a lot more, trying to educate people as young as possible to know that, you know, it's okay to speak out, that hopefully, you know, in more years to come, there'll be less situations and stories like yourself, and the acting out, if it happens, there is people deep diving and wondering and offering that support and figuring out if there is something underlying. Whether that teenager decides to talk about it is something else, because like you said, as a teenager, you do bury things, you try and be cool and fit in, and, you know, talking about being groomed at 11, you probably thought, that's the worst thing I can say whilst I'm in primary school, I'm going to have no friends, you know. But hopefully if the conversation continues to grow and people are brought up with the fact that mental health and anything that happens to you is worth talking about. You are worthy. You need to know that this is not normal. And if you're acting out, there's probably a reason to it. Let's just keep everything crossed that these conversations keep growing and that there's less and less people in the situation that you found yourself in.
Yeah. And again, that's why I do these podcasts, because I want people to know that it's okay. Your past does not define you. You know, your past does not control you. So I'd be a bit hypocritical if I didn't speak up about my story, and I'm trying to get other people to speak up about theirs. So I've always said that I'm at a stage now where I'm comfortable with everything and I can talk about it very, very openly.
When did you get comfortable with it, do you think? When did you realise that it wasn't your fault, everything that's happened is just such an unfortunate situation that you found yourself in? When did you find the confidence to go, actually, I need help?
I'll be honest, the very first time, I think when I was about 14, my mother sent me for anger management because, again, acting out, constantly getting in trouble at school, fighting, and, you know, just throwing things in a rage at that point. So I got sent to anger management, and I think I went for a couple of weeks, and I just refused to speak because I did not want to speak. Now, what that counsellor gave me at that time was a notepad and a pen. And he said, well, if you're not going to speak, write it down. And I just like, yeah, whatever. And when I went home, I just threw it on the bedroom floor, didn't think anything of it. But I do remember like a couple of days later, I felt myself fizzing up. And again, I think it's just everything in my head at that point. Everything was just fizzing up. And I clocked it out of the corner of my eye and I started writing. And it turned out I ended up writing songs, writing poetry,
Wow.
and started doing that. And I'd done loads. And do you know what? It helped. I wouldn't say it was like a magic wand and made everything go away, but it helped. And I think that's where everything sort of started, where it started with the writing and trying to like, I would try and do it every so often, but at the same time, you're at 14. You don't want to go into school and say that you write poetry and write songs. At that point, it's like you've still got that sort of reputation to be on board at that age, so I sort of had to
Unless you're
keep
Ed
real.
Sheeran.
Yeah.
Ed Sheeran was proudly saying that, and look where he is now. Darryl, you missed a trick.
I know.
At the choir as well.
Yeah.
You didn't
We'll
let
be
me
your
into the
life
choir
coach
in
and business
secondary
coach, don't
school.
worry.
But
But
yeah,
no.
that is, I think that's where it started, and that sort of like ended up being the framework of the Fynix project. But in regards to when I got comfortable with everything, um, I think there was that moment after the bridge where everything for me had just like I'd lost everything. So, and again, we'll probably go into it in a bit more detail, but I was in a domestically abusive marriage myself,
Mm.
and I felt very, very much trapped. And I eventually did leave, um, albeit I left with 11p to my name, and two pairs of jeans and a t-shirt. And because all the money, all my wages got transferred out, and I got kicked out the door. And when I tried to sit down and say amicably, I'm leaving, I can't do this anymore. So at that point, my daughter was being used as a weapon. So I wasn't able to see her at all. At that point, I was living in a shared accommodation. I had to come out of work due to my mental health. I wasn't able to see my daughter. Years before I was segregated from my family, I never had, for 5 or 6 years, I never had any communication with my sister, with my mother. I was
Wow.
segregated from them. So I wasn't allowed to go out. I didn't have any friends. I had one friend that I worked with at the time, and we kept in touch. Um, so I just felt that I had literally nothing. And I walked to the bridge, didn't tell anyone where I'm going because I didn't really have anyone to speak to at that point. And I was sat at the edge of the bridge, just looking down and said, who's going to miss me? And it was only a passing motorist. This is what the police told me. And they got a call for concern from passing motorists. They come up behind me. It was pitch black in the middle of the night. And arms around me, pulled me back. And that was a moment of clarity for me. System didn't save me. The pills didn't save me that I was on. It was someone. Maybe that person had been where I am. And they could see them signs. And then after that, I started writing. So the first thing I done was I wrote my book, which was based on my life. I changed the names for legal reasons, obviously. But I wrote that, and it's available on Amazon now. Not to plug, but I'm going to plug anyway. It's available
Yeah,
on
do
Go for
Amazon.
it. Go for it. Plug away, Darryl.
But do you know what? That was a really cathartic moment for me writing that book and going through every aspect of my life. I think at that point, I felt like I'd come to terms with everything. Between that and my current partner and my friends and my family that I all have around me, I call them my lighthouses, because they all show me the way, and they all light up every part of my life at the minute. And obviously, since that, I sort of took the time. I've gone through the courts. I've got access to my daughter 50-50 now. So everything's split down the middle with my daughter. I've done things the right way. I'm happy. I've actually got another baby on the way.
Oh,
Congratulations.
I
congratulations.
know, due end of July, start of August.
Oh, summer baby, they're the best
I
ones.
know. But life in the minute, I'm just the gratitude that I have for even everything that I've been through. I'm grateful for that because it has made me the person that I am today. It's put me on this path that I am on, trying to help other people. So I don't think that if anyone asks me, would you go back and change anything? One thing I would change, and that is obviously my brother passing away, I would change
Yeah.
that in a heartbeat. Everything
Mhm.
else, no, do you know what? I probably wouldn't change because I wouldn't be on this path that I'm on now. As crazy
Mm.
as that sounds, apart from my brother, I wouldn't change anything because it's led me to this.
Yeah,
Oh,
strong guy.
definitely. And circling back, just because I'm intrigued more than anything, if you see more research about it now, obviously you entered that relationship, which was domestically, obviously abusive to yourself. Do you think that, did you go into that, not go into it, no one wants to have that happen to them, but because of your,
Subconsciously.
because your upbringing, they say you can be attracted to like toxicity, can't you? You like, that what you
Yeah,
seen almost. Do you know what I mean? Have you ever looked back and thought about that, or was it something that was lovely, kind of love bombing, and then it all went to shit? Does that make sense?
I think, and in all fairness, I blamed myself for it for years.
Right.
I'm not going to say that I was 100% innocent in the situation. So 2 weeks into the relationship, I went back over the island for Christmas for the first time since my brother had passed away. And I'll be completely honest, well, I am ashamed, but it happened. I had a one night stand.
Mhm.
And 2 weeks into the relationship, I'm not using that as an excuse or anything like that. What I'd done was wrong. Fair enough. Um, and she did find out about it. And she said, we'll keep going. We'll give it a go. I said, that's absolutely fine. But for years later, nothing I ever did was good enough. So we could have an argument about finances, and it would still come back to that one night stand.
Mhm.
Um, any sort of female that I sort of talk to, you're going to have sex with her. Even the very last time that it happened, I was actually on the phone to Sky. The kids were all in the living room as well, trying to fix the broadbands to get a better signal upstairs. That ended up in a huge argument. That ended up, oh, did you enjoy flirting with the Sky woman? I was like, well, I wasn't. That ended up in a huge argument. She pulled me into the dining room, and I ended up getting a backhand across the face.
Mm.
And that's when I'd walked out because I've always known that when stuff like that happens, remove yourself from the situation.
Mhm.
It wasn't the first time that she was physically violent. There was times where I'd walk away and I had a cup smashed in my back, my bare skin. So yeah, I mean, I got to a point where I can't go on living like this, and I can't keep blaming myself. Yes, what I did was wrong, but 8 years down the line, I
Mm.
can't continue to be dragged up. Otherwise, that's going to end up being on my gravestone.
Mhm.
So there was one time where I was either like I was walking to work and I just started walking the other way, and I don't know why. And I ended up phoning Samaritans and explaining the situation to them. They told me you need to come up with a plan. I did come up with a plan. I said, you know what, in February pay, I'll leave. I'll not do it before Christmas for the kids' sake. And I had a house lined up. Um, and at that time, when I got paid, I'd sat her down, tried to talk to her. She controlled all the finances as well, so she had access to all the money. Which, after I'd sort of left, my dad realised, and he'd noticed quite a few things. So I still had contact with my dad, even though I didn't have any contact with my mother or anything like that. But Um, she said, well, no, you're not taking the money. So she transferred it out into her eldest daughter's account. She gave me about 5 minutes to pack clothes and then kicked me out of the house. So I had about two pairs of jeans and a t-shirt and about 11p to my name. And literally 11 o'clock at night, walking through the streets, not knowing what to do. I phoned my friend Dexter, the one friend that I actually had at that point due to free work. I phoned him, so he had to drive up from Ellesmere Airport to come and get me. At the same time, I'd phoned the police. I'd said to the police what had happened, and because it was a joint account, there's nothing I could do.
Mm.
Even though it was my wages, went through everything. They said, "Do you want to press charges with the 2027 assault?" I said, "No, I don't." I said, "I just need the medication because I was having panic attacks at that point due to everything. I just need the medication and the passport because I've got no ID." So they went up and got that. Bless my friend Dexter, he came and got me. He took me to Asda to get me all toiletry bits. He paid for the Premier Inn for a couple of nights. The police came to me and handed me my stuff, and he said, just to let you know, we have arrested her on them 2 Section 27 assaults. And do you want to press charges? I'm like, no, because it's not fair on the kids. So I was thinking more of the kids than myself or anything in point scoring. But yeah, that was when I sort of left, and at that point I had to try and rebuild.
And just again, me and Lucy have just got these so many questions about your life. It's just incredibly brave what you've gone through. When you were talking about your situation then and mentioning the kids, did you ever feel like history was repeating itself? And did you ever think you'd find yourself in this situation given what you had gone through and experienced as a kid?
Do you know what? What I'd gone through as a kid, and this is something that really frustrates me, is what I'd gone through as a kid. The normal way it is a man's hitting a woman, that's domestic abuse.
Mm.
It's not seen the same way when it's the other way around. Now, for many reasons, you sort of feel like you lose your masculinity, so you don't want to admit that that's what's happening. But even when I went to the doctors, there was 3 referrals gone in to domestic abuse services for myself. I'd never received any phone calls from them.
Wow.
3 separate times, I'd never received any.
So you tried to get help when you was in that situation,
Yeah.
and no one came for you.
Nope, no one at all.
And do you feel like that brought up childhood trauma from when you was obviously living in that war zone, as you've labelled it? Did you feel like that was, again, that scared little boy that no one was helping?
So I do it all because, I mean, the physical incidents they weren't that many, but every time that they did happen, my head went straight back to me being a child every single time. And I did end up getting PTSD from it. I was diagnosed with PTSD because of it. And so, yeah, every time. And all I wanted to do at that point was walk away. Any time that was any sort of physical violence, I wanted to walk away or remove myself from that situation. But 9 times out of 10, I was never allowed, because she would stand in front of the door and push me back and say, "You're not going anywhere. If you value our marriage, you will stay." And I just wanted to remove myself from that situation because it was just aggressive, and I did not like it at all, and I just kept getting flashbacks.
And obviously it sounds like, and I think from getting to know you during this episode, none of that went on to the kids, and it was very much a much nicer household for them to live in, even though you were suffering. It sounds like you very much kept that at bay, which obviously to your detriment and your mental health, but it sounds like you really did protect those kids in that situation, which again is kudos to you to be in that situation and make sure the kids kind of were unaware. Now you've got access to your daughter again. I'm not too sure of her age, but do you ever have conversations about that?
Oh, because I mean, she's 8 at the minute.
She's not old, yeah.
She's not old enough, so at that time she didn't understand anything. You know, why did you have to leave, Daddy? But now at this stage, obviously, my ex-wife, she's got a new partner. I've got a new partner as well, and we have had the conversations. Not about why I've left, but I said, "Isn't it good now? You know, your mummy's happy, your daddy's happy." And we're both very, very much smiling or happy. I said, "She's happy because she gets 2 Christmases. She's happy because she gets 3 birthdays."
Yeah.
It's the little things. So yeah, I mean, she's come to terms with it now. I think for her it was quite hard, and because she was so young, and obviously, you know, she's used to me being there every single day. But now we've got everything 50-50 as well. So
yeah,
she spends just as much time with me as she does there. So
amazing.
she's
And
happy.
you're in obviously a much better place, which is going to make you a better dad anyway. Not that you weren't before, but you know what I mean? Like when you went to the bridge, you were going for a reason, right? And obviously if that stranger had never helped you, then like you said, and we said at the beginning, this conversation wouldn't be happening and your daughter wouldn't have a dad. So, you know, yes, she gets her 2 Christmases, she gets her 2 birthdays, and she gets a happy dad and someone who's worked through the trauma, which is obviously a great happy ending.
Yeah, and I think obviously, I know you said I'm not saying that you were a bad dad, but I wasn't as present as a dad back then because I was still dealing with quite a lot. But what she gets now is a dad that's present.
Mm.
A dad that's not forcing a fake smile, just to make her smile. A dad that's actually smiling for the sake of, he is genuinely happy. And
Yeah.
I think kids, they're quite clever kids, and I think they can see that. And I think she definitely sees me as a lot happier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And after that night, obviously on the bridge, I know you stopped asking them what's wrong with me and started to ask what happened to me. So,
Mm.
what made you change that question? What happened to you on that bridge that night or afterwards when that stranger, got you? Talk us through that.
So it's sort of like, it's something that sort of crept into my head afterwards. I was sort of sitting I was still in the shared accommodation at that point. And I had huge anxiety, so I never really, thankfully, I had an ensuite, so I never really sort of like mingled with any of the other people because I had huge like bad anxiety at that point. But I'd sort of sat there, I thought, I've been to the doctors, I've done all this therapy, I'm taking these tablets, I'm popping them like pills left, right, and center. None of that's trying to help me, none of that's like saved me or anything like that.
Mm.
But this stranger that doesn't know me, you know, why did they phone the police? They see me sitting there. Why did they phone the police out of concern? And it made me realize that maybe that person's been where I am and they
Mm.
wanted to try and do something and try and stop them, trying to stop me. And I sort of realized that there's a huge issue with the system that we have in regards to mental health. There's a huge, huge issue. And I think at that point, I mean, I was still in a sort of bad place, but I knew that I wanted to do something at that point, but I was still doing a lot of work on myself. So the first iteration of Fynix project was Transcendence Initiative. And it was something that I was just like scribbling down and thinking, well, I can do this, I can do that. And I wasn't 100% thinking clearly at that point, but I knew that what that person done for me was huge. Can I do that for other people as well?
Mm.
Right.
And I think that was my moment, and that's what sort of sparked. And I've done a hell of a lot of work on myself over the years. I've learned so much about myself, about my own body, about my mind, but about what actually helps people and what's actually needed
Mm.
in the world, especially in regards to like mental health.
Yeah. And I think that was obviously the complete turning point in your life at that moment, what the stranger did, so to speak. And do you believe in fate? Do you believe in, you were there for a reason? Do you believe in all that kind of stuff? Or are you quite practical and you're quite fact driven and you were just like, do you know what? The reason why I'm moving on this path is just pure coincidence, but it's turned into this. Like, what are your thoughts on the fate versus fact?
Yeah, I mean, I do believe it's fate. That brought me to this place that I am now. That stranger was there at that particular time. I do believe it was fate. I've never been overly religious. However, recently I am sort of, you know, I wouldn't say I'm like full on Christian, but I am becoming more religious in respect of like I do believe that, there is someone up there looking out for me. And I think that's why I wear a cross most days these days. My partner, she's Christian, but she's never trying to like force anything down the throat. And it's hard because years ago I would have said that I am completely atheist. I went
Mm.
from atheist like because with everything that happened with my brother and my stepfather and stuff. I said there's no way that there could be a God for me to go
Mm.
through all of this. But as you
Mhm.
get older and you respect other people's beliefs, so then I went to agnostic. And then I'm sort of like, well, I'm at the stage now where there has to be something up there that's put me on this path and keeping me here. So yeah, that's a hard one about religion.
I
But
mean, I suppose,
I do believe it's like it is fate. I would say I do practice my gratitude near enough every day.
yeah,
And I do believe in like manifestation, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And my partner said to me, he said, that's kind of like beliefs, like faith. I said, well, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm sort of like I'm manifesting.
yeah,
So yeah, I do believe that there is fate. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we talk about that a lot on this podcast, and it's not from a religious perspective, certainly not from me anyway, and I don't think it is from Lucy. It's just more the belief in yourself and the
Mm.
belief in in good things, putting it out there, trying to get stuff back. And you know, you said it earlier, you know, you would only change, you know, not losing your brother. Everything else you would stick with because it's brought you to this place. And I think it takes such a courageous person to say that and not to sit in the woe is me, because you've every fucking right to be like, what a horrific life I've led. This is shit. Like, and you could, and you've touched upon it. You did do the drugs, the drink, the anger management. You've had elements of your life like that. You've come back. You've then been, you know, in a relationship that was meant to be loving and supportive. That turned to shit. You then found yourself on a bridge. You've had so many comebacks almost. And to be here telling the story and just being like, but you know what? Like, I'll go on it again. I will go on that journey again, because if it helps someone, then that's what I'm meant to be doing. And it's just incredible that you're able to say that. And I know that you said you've done a lot of work on yourself, but I hope that you're proud of yourself. And I'm saying this, you know, stranger to stranger, we're getting to know each other on this episode, or we're getting to know you. And I hope you're proud of what you've overcome, and you truly believe your purpose is to help other people, because your journey, your story is just incredible and extraordinary. And I truly believe that people are going to learn so much from your courage, your bravery, your resilience, your ability to just find the hope and the joy out of the situation that you've been put in. And that's not fucking easy. So just kudos to you, and I hope you're proud of yourself.
Well, to be fair, it's not about me being proud of myself. The main goal is for my family, my partner, my daughter to be proud of me. And if I leave some sort of legacy, and if I leave, you know, I don't intend to leave my daughter loads of money when I finally do pass away, which I'm hoping for years down the line. But I want her to have them morals. You know, my dad really helped a lot of people. Maybe I should do that and help a lot of people. I want that that legacy left, rather than an inheritance. Which I don't think I'm going to be a millionaire anytime soon, but you know.
I mean, but that totally aligns with what we were saying earlier about going into that first women's refuge, and you didn't need materialistic things. You just needed that safe haven. So that alignment has continued with you your whole life, whether you've noticed it or not. And just you saying that's what you want to leave for your daughter, again, is just,
no one remembers the money, do they? But going on the legacy thing, now, obviously, we know you've started Fynix project, and I want to know a lot more about it. And I know, you know, people deal with mental health in different ways, and you know, it could be therapy, it could be breath work, it could be journaling, like even going back with your poetry and things like that. And you've spoken the difference, which I'm really interested to speak to you about today, is the difference between what happens in the mind and what's happening in the body when it comes to like the nervous system. So can you explain that to us and what you've learned?
So people automatically think, like, if it's anxiety or stress or anything like that, that it starts in the mind, but it actually starts in the body. And it could show up in different ways, whether it's your jaws clenching, whether it's your chest getting tighter, whether it's you breathing heavier. So it starts off in your body, and that's because your nervous system it's there for one reason. It's your bodyguard. It's there to recognize danger or perceived danger. And so if you've been through trauma for many, many years, sometimes your body will see danger, your nervous system will see danger when there's danger not actually there. So if you learn to control your body first, so if you recognize the first sign of it showing up in your body, whether you want to do breathing exercises, whether you want to do grounding techniques, that's the first thing that you need to do. But what a lot of people do when it's like anxiety or stress, they'll try and think their way out of it. But your body doesn't listen to words. Your body listens to movement. So if you're trying to slow down your breathing, when your breathing slows down, your nervous system, right, okay, danger averted, the body's feeling better. And then you can start coming back. So it's just understanding how your body works.
Yeah.
And again, it always shows up in your body first. But people will try and think it away. And if it's something that's going on in your body physically, you can't just think that away. You have to control your body first.
So do you think that if someone is starting to feel nervous, anxious, there's something happening, they should tap into their physical sensation before they tap into their mental
Yeah,
sensation?
yeah,
Okay.
because it's always going to show up in the body first every single time. And I mean, that's something that I'm a huge advocate for. And again, not to plug, but
Mm.
with all the workshops that we've done, I've got a self-help guide, which is just, it's straight talking, no fluff. There may be some swearing in there, but I don't like speaking clinically. I don't like sugarcoating things. So I
Mm.
Yeah.
just say things straight as they are. So that's why I'd sort of done like it's kind of like a self-help guide. It's a small guide you can put in your pocket. It talks you through absolutely everything. Really gives you that huge understanding. But yeah, everything shows up and people try and deal with things wrong. They're trying to like think their way out of things and that just does not help. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I mean, we'll definitely be plugging for you, don't worry. We'll be sharing all the
Yeah.
Fynix project
All
stuff.
available on Amazon.
Exactly. You send us the stuff, Darryl, and we'll get it on the pod. Don't worry. But yeah, that's exactly what we want to do. Share the actual techniques and, practical side of things because, talking isn't for everyone. And there might be people listening to your story resonating or just again agreeing kind of with us with what an incredible human being you are, but they might not want to go down the therapy route yet because you've got to be ready to face therapy, and when you do, it is the most amazing thing, but you can't force anyone. Someone has got to be ready to take that step. So those self-help tools and techniques that you're talking about might be the perfect antidote for someone that kind of doesn't want to do the talking. So absolutely, we will be sharing and sharing and sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Uh,
I mean that's one thing. Like with therapy, it's not for everyone, and that's one thing that I've always said. It's not one glove fits all when it comes to mental health support. So that's why I sort of the writing I've done since I was like 13, 14, and I've looked at other ways to release and regulate people's emotions and stuff like that. So we've got like artworks. I've got about 20 different workshops at the minute
mhm.
of all different ways to help people. There has to be some sort of release somewhere because, like I say, it's not one glove fits all. But I had a business mentor, and it was just like someone that came across me on LinkedIn. He wasn't like, I didn't actually hire him as a business mentor, but he said to me, he said, "You've got far too many workshops." I says, "What do you mean?" He says, "You just need to have one flagship one, and then that's it." I says, "Well, that doesn't help.
Mm,
I'm not here to make millions of pounds. I'm here to help people."
mm.
Mm.
But I've had a few people say that. He said, "You've got far too many workshops." I didn't care. I genuinely don't care because there's always going to be something for someone.
Yeah.
And that's why we sort of put a couple of songs out. There's a couple of songs on Spotify that are ones that I wrote. I haven't sang because then nobody would listen to them. Um, but again, they're all about mental health because I know that some people, me included, will use music as a release and
Mhm.
listen to music. For the people that'll sit in the car at 2 a.m. and listen to a song that just resonates with them, just to sort of help them keep them away from the edge. So I'm constantly looking at other ways to try and help people,
Mhm.
Mm.
ways that may seem silly to some, but do you know what? They do help. And I'll
Yeah.
look at if it takes if I have to have 100 different workshops and 100 different ways to help people, at least there's going to be one way that helps someone.
Mhm.
Yeah. And just to clear the workshops then, are these tools online? Are these in person as well? How do you, just for our listeners to interpret, obviously, if they want to find your workshops, what is it? Because when someone says a workshop to me, I think, oh, we're doing it on Zoom or we're doing it in,
Yeah.
a town hall, village hall or something lying on the floor doing breath work.
Yeah, so we do have the option of doing it online, but I'll be completely honest, I prefer not to do it online. I prefer
Mm.
doing
Mm.
it face to face,
Yeah.
because it has so much more of an impact. So we do workshops, whether it be businesses, so we'll work with businesses, we'll work with charities, and we'll work with, whether it's their service users or their staff, because their staff also need the help as well. I mean, we done work with the Jade Roberts project a while back. And specifically just for their staff because they deal with suicidal people on a daily basis.
Mhm.
And they carry a lot, and it's making sure that they have them boundaries and making sure that they don't carry that guilt with them if something happens. So we
Mhm.
do a lot of work with them as well. And then I've just recently started doing community support groups as well. So I'll go into like I'm doing a men's mental health group tomorrow night. I'm going in and just run the free session for them, and that's again, I just want to make sure that it's accessible for everyone. So
Yeah.
for businesses, it's a fixed price. For charities, I work on a case by case basis because I know that
Yeah.
funding can be tight, and then for community groups, they're completely free.
Amazing.
So I just make sure it's accessible.
And where I've got two questions. First of all, practicalities. Where are you based? So again, obviously, people that are
So funny. I
listening.
wrote that down.
Where are you based? Me and Lucy are very aligned.
Yeah. So we're based in the northwest of England, but we have a collaboration. So we've got another workshop which is specifically for the boxing community, and so I work with an ex-fighter called Carl Edgington, and we've got After the Bell, so it's emotional regulation for fighters and how they deal with, after a fight, dealing with a loss, dealing with injury, because a lot of them will turn to drink and drugs, and you can see what happened to like Ricky Hatton and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we've just officially rolled that out in Northern Ireland, Manchester, and Liverpool, and so that
Amazing.
I've got facilitators over there from the fighting industry, facilitators in Manchester from the fighting industry, but I'm based in Liverpool, Northwest.
Yeah, amazing. And my second one, what based on sort of the workshops and everything that you're doing, what do you teach currently that would help an 11-year-old Darryl?
Oh, what do I teach currently that would help an 11-year-old Darryl? Do you know what? What I would say to 11-year-old Darryl was, I know I started it at 14, but start writing it down. If you can get it from here to outside, then that's absolutely fine. But I think the main thing I would teach him would be to reframing your story. So, there's times where I would have said that I'm a failure. If I'm having a bad day, I'll say, oh, I'm just a failure. But now I'll reframe that. I always write it down and reframe it. I said, well, you know what? I've had a bad day, but I've done X, Y, and Z. My daughter's happy. My daughter's healthy. My partner's happy. And that's all due to me and me making sure that they're still happy. So I'm not a failure. So it's just all about reframing things, and it's easier to do if you write it down.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I would tell 11-year-old Darryl that.
I mean, you can tell adults that as well, because I think that's very helpful. Everyone has those days where you just beat yourself up and you're not kind to yourself. And I read somewhere once, about 6 months ago, be kind to yourself because that's the only person that's going to be on your deathbed with you. And I was like, oh my God, that's so true. And I try to remember elements of that as I go through my life, and every now and again, don't be kind to myself. I have to remember that and think, no, the only person you need to be kind to, well, is yourself and also others. But remember that, like, you're the only person on your deathbed with you. So tell yourself nice things and stop beating yourself up and stop telling yourself you're a failure and this, that, and the other. You may have burnt the potatoes, but you're not a fucking failure. Or any cooking analogy you want to use.
I mean, that's the thing. We've all got like an inner critic, and the inner critic for some people could be like really, really loud. And again, it's something that over the past couple of years I've sort of looked at, and like when my inner critic and that narrative sort of plays in your head, I always ask myself, I'm saying this to myself, but would I say it to my friend if my friend was in that position? I would sort of look at it from that perspective. And say, well, if I wouldn't say it to my friend, I'm not going to say it to myself. And so that's the way I'll always look at it, and that's where it tries to quieten down the inner critic that we've all got.
Oh, they're awful.
Yeah. And I've got a question. So if someone was sitting in their car right now, and instead of just obviously going to your Spotify playlist, and feeling obviously like you did in that moment when you were on that bridge, what sentence, what words would you say to them?
What words would I say to them if someone was in that car? I would say that you've survived your worst day. You're still here. You've survived your worst day. And if you can survive every day that's gone previous, you can survive the next day and the next day. And things will get better. There is people that will be there and they can't see a way out, but if you've survived all these days so far and you're still here and you're still standing and breathing, that's all you need to do. You don't need to be doing X, Y, and Z. If you're still breathing, that's enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's amazing. And hopefully there'll be people that will take that and they will survive another day, another day, another day, and be able to utilise the things that you've spoken about today, and the workshops and the tools and the techniques, and just your incredible bravery. And I think before we wrap up completely, we want to know who Darryl is becoming now.
Who am I? I should have had something prepared for this one, shouldn't I?
You know the podcast name, Darryl.
Do you want me to get your notes up? Because you didn't write it down.
We'll read it for you.
Do you know what? I'm becoming someone that I just want to help as many people as possible, but I want to make sure that there is policy changes. I want lived experience to be at the forefront of mental health support. I'm happy that I've been asked to speak at the Global Mental Health and Wellbeing Summit this year.
Amazing.
And that's the entire topic that I'm going to talk about. Not token representation, not a footnote, but the people like us that have sort of been through everything. The people closest to the problem are the people closest to the solution.
Yeah.
That's all I want. I want my daughter to be proud. I want to become someone that my daughter's proud of, that my partner's proud of, and that the new baby's proud of. And I want to help as many people as I possibly can while I've got my time on this earth, and makes a real difference in regards to policies as well. So even after I'm gone, the policy will be there, and it will help more and more people. That's all I want in life.
I think we can both say we're very confident in your abilities to do that, and long live your legacy, and please be proud of yourself as well. Everyone else is, please be proud of yourself. But thank you so much, Darryl. This has just been the most incredible story to listen to, and it's I just can't thank you enough, honestly. We're just so grateful that you've come on and shared with us. And I just can't wait for everyone to listen to this when we release it.
No, honestly, I just want to thank you as well, because it gives me the opportunity to share my story. And if it resonates with just one person,
oh God, yeah,
that means the world to me. Because if it brings someone back from the edge, if you know what, I'm not alone. He's went through it. He's still standing. Maybe I can too. And that's all I hope for when I do these podcasts, is just making sure that if I can bring one person back by telling my story, then it's been a success. So that's all I can hope for. So thank you guys for giving me the opportunity.
No, our pleasure. We totally agree. I think we do that even ourselves. When we started the pod, it was all about, if we can help just that one person, me and Hannah will have fun, we'll enjoy it, and just see where it goes. Yeah. So again, everything that you're doing with the Fynix project, again, your workshops, the book, we'll make sure we share your Instagram if anyone needs to contact you through our Instagram, and obviously the summary and everything we put out, we'll make sure the details are there. So if anyone is listening, they can't get hold of Darryl, obviously inbox us and we can forward those details on 100%. There as well.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, but no, thank you very much. And on that note, I will say goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
And then goodbye.
Goodbye from me.
Brilliant.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.